against that. Talk about what does that mean, because it's really a semantics issue, and I don't think people understand what is being requested and what the solution could be. And so talk about that, because you say that it's not incompatible or in tension with each other with backing the blue and looking at how do we reimagine the system.
I think that's right. So, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I come from a family of law enforcement. My husband is a federal prosecutor. Currently, right now, my entire family has a legacy of multiple generations in justice. And I believe that there is a role for law enforcement. I believe deeply in protecting our law enforcement and investing in their safety. I also believe that our community and our world will be better if people of color are not systematically drawn into a system that makes us less safe and that eliminates the genius and the opportunity of those people who are going into the justice system, right? And so we have to have an ability for us to both exalt the police officers who do good to protect our communities, and importantly, our communities of color who have been historically ignored. I mean, you can't look at the history of Southside Chicago. There's some incredible books about what happened in Chicago when the police pulled out of Southside Chicago and left people of color without any protection, without any rule of law, right? Like, police can help to protect and sustain rule of law. But what we cannot have is a police force that responds with aggression and that responds allowing their implicit bias to have them be aggressive towards people of color, or their racism to dominate the way that they think of their job, right? Mm-hmm. We need police that are guardians of our community, not warriors. And so
talk about that, the difference, because you and I had a conversation on that. What's the difference between those two? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I think, our police forces right now too often are warriors. They arrive in, bullet protected gear, riot gear that our military would use on a battlefield. They have tanks, they have weapons that are historically aligned with war. They're trained to protect their fellow comrades above all else. That is a warrior mentality that pits our police and law enforcement, good people who want to do good, against the very communities that they seek to protect. Let's replace that with a warrior mentality, with a guardian mentality, in which the police force see themselves as working in concert with community to bring and lift up the communities that are trying to provide for others. They incorporate mental health responses to crises. They think about behavioral health, and they find themselves in partnership. And there was actually a study about how we can change guardians versus warriors. So just by training differently and shifting the mentality for police to think more like guardians than warriors, there's a study that showed we could reduce significantly use of force, and police officers themselves reported feeling safer. Use on force dropped, but so did aggression against police. So it is good for both our police departments as well as our community to shift the way that police look at the community.
And so Lone Star Justice Alliance does what? You mentioned some of the things you're doing, but I know that there's a lot more that you do. So talk about how you started this and what is the ultimate goal for you with this organization.
Yeah, so we launched 3 years ago, which is a wonderful milestone. We just celebrated.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that. We launched ourselves with a 15-year plan, I like to tell everybody, because our goal is to put ourselves out of business, right? Yes. If we replace the system, then I can go retire. And so our 15-year goal is quite simple. It's just to see our justice system respond to youth and emerging adults, which are 17 to 24-year-olds, with a behavioral response, a public health response, rather than a punitive one. So we want to replace punishment with rehabilitation, restoration, and transformation. And so what that looks like is a couple of things. First, we provide for our youth in Texas, we've made a lot of changes in the law, and we actually have a lot of really good policies, but they haven't been put into place. So we work through litigation to make sure that all kids have the benefit of those policies and not just those who can afford them. The second thing we do is our transformative justice model I mentioned earlier, which seeks to test whether a redesign of our system that relies on rehabilitation versus punishment can be successful at a broad scale. And then finally, we provide training and technical assistance to communities, to police forces, to law enforcement and criminal justice stakeholders on ways to bring evidence-based practices into their work.
So, as an ally, and I know that to be true for you, what would be your advice for other people in their pursuit to be better allies? And the second part to the question is, what can people do to impact reimagining what criminal justice can look like? So what are those two things?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is that to my fellow white people, we need to see racial equity and criminal justice reform as something that we have to do and we have to lead on, because we were part of the problem. We established it and we have to take responsibility for working for it. We also need to educate ourselves and talk to white allies about what it is, and not just leave for our friends of color to explain or to take the mantle of making radical change. So I think it's about taking personal responsibility, educating yourself, and then moving forward and calling a spade a spade. And the way that I think we can all reimagine justice is to get involved in your local DA races, get involved in your judge races, understand what's happening around you, and then invest, if you can, in the organizations that are doing the type of transformative justice work that will make your children proud to know that you were part of eradicating the greatest civil rights crisis of our time.
And so how can people reach you, Elizabeth?
So please check out our website. It's the LoneStarJusticeAlliance.org or lsja.org. Learn more about us. I'll tell you, I did the website myself, so don't judge us that it's written by a lawyer, so there's a lot of words and not a lot of images. And, reach out anytime through the website if you're interested in joining us. We have a Justice Ally campaign going. We have a matching campaign where someone is, if we can get 50 new Justice Allies, which are monthly donors at any level, it's about broad-based community support, not just about fundraising, and we'll unlock a $5,000 matching donation. So please join us, become a Justice Ally, and let's together reimagine what our communities can be.
Awesomeness. I really appreciate you coming on the show, because I think people have so many questions about what does it mean to reimagine? What does defunding mean? Or does it mean we're abandoning our police department? And what does it mean to be an ally? And you've done a great job in this amount of time, which is so quick, to really explain those things. And so I really appreciate you. I've got to have you come back because you are just simply amazing. And so I want to thank you again, Elizabeth, for being a guest on The Tapestry. This show, again, is really designed for us to listen to the narratives of women and how they've used their lives to make a difference in our world, and how narratives are really powerful in creating change. Again, I'm Dr. François Booker Drew, and you can reach out to me on my website at drfrancois.com, or you can email me at info@drfrancois.com. Thanks a lot for being a part of our audience and listening to our show. We appreciate you and your support.